Joe Rogan is missing from Time Magazine Top 100 podcasts? You don't say! Are you really telling me that only the people that they like, the people that they choose, are allowed to be on that podcast list? That's crazy!
So, Time Magazine's top 100 influencers list was kind of a joke, and we talked about that just a couple of weeks ago. And now they have followed
Asmongold wasn't on and I wasn't seeing it.
It up with a list of the top 100 best podcasts of all time, not just of 2025 or of the last 5-10 years.
I guarantee you Sleepy Cabin's not going to be on there.
Of all time.
No Sleepy
and
Cabin.
To no one's surprise, they did not include certain, I guess they would say, right-leaning podcasters such as Joe Rogan. He was nowhere to be found on this list. And you would think if it were like maybe 10 ranked, okay, maybe we can excuse that. But 100? And the list isn't just, you know...
It's going to be a bunch of shit that I've never heard of. And I know a lot about podcasts.
A bunch of examples of like independent shows that you haven't heard of before. They are legacy media approved shows by mainstream celebrities, late night hosts, that type of thing.
What was the one that you mentioned that was the funniest? It was like
Amy Poehler's podcast, which is presented by Walmart.
Oh.
Wait, wasn't there going to be a Walmart streaming service at some point?
Walmart Plus?
Did that ever come out? Like,
I don't know.
There's hardcore history
like,
on all that
and
one.
I was all on board with that if all it was like people getting in fights
There's
at
two.
Walmart. If it
Yeah.
was just like people brawling in the
just
fast
EBT.
food, like
are-
in the frozen food section, people are just duking it out.
going
I would
at
have
it.
watched that.
Supposedly, the most innovative, influential, and informative listens in the history of the podcasting medium. They reflect the depth, breadth, and possibility of the medium of podcasting at its best.
No. What they don't understand, or let me rephrase this. They do understand. What the truth of the matter is that podcasting, I think it's because it runs contrary to the joke that goes the other direction, which is like we need to regulate podcast mics, and like there's like a whole Instagram subgenre.
Yeah, this is what it is. They're just trying to regulate podcasts. And like, these are the actual real top 100 podcasts that everybody watches and who they should watch.
Of like taking microphones away from people who shouldn't have like podcast mics. I'm probably one of those people. But the point is like it's democratized and anybody can do it. But what the legacy media wants you to believe is that the most
Dax Shepard has a podcast. That's so fucking weird.
interesting podcasts are going to be the ones that were created by Walmart.
Right. I'm most offended that we weren't featured.
I know.
Obviously, but they also included NPR, 2 podcasts that are produced by the New York Times, and yet no mention of Joe Rogan, no mention of Andrew Huberman, no mention of The Skinny Confidential, which is produced by Dear Media, and they have a whole suite of extremely popular podcasts.
There's even a podcast on here with somebody in a
Theo
beanie
Von.
that isn't Tim.
Who
So
is
What is going on?
Ear Hustle,
No Foodie Boys?
Life in Carson.
no
heard of it.
empty foodie boys?
Like, what kind of list is this?
What the hell?
Is this the worst 100 podcasts of all
But
time?
of course, Call Her Daddy was on the list.
That one at least makes sense.
It's
extremely
in terms
influential.
of popularity and influential.
Yeah, if you're going to talk about influential, I think PKA needs to be on there because like every YouTuber watches PKA.
Status, I get it, but to put NPR on here, really?
Crazy.
Like, that's crazy work.
I mean,
You put AM radio on here?
the whole point of podcasting is that it gave regular people access to equipment to get them to reach a wide group. Like I realize I watch back, so there's a lot of podcasts that I watch that are mainly like reviews of television shows, and they have a lot of rewatch value to me. I can go and re-listen value. I can re-listen to podcasts about, you know, reviewing old shows episode by episode, and when I go back through and listen to some of them now, there's a lot, like there's even more umming and ahhing than me. And it doesn't matter. Like, it's not polished. And what you like about it is that they bring a certain level of enthusiasm and excitement to
Yeah, one of my favorite podcasts is Sleepy Cabin. And it's just a comedy podcast where they just make fun of each other and tell jokes, and it's great. And I've probably listened to that podcast all the way through from start to finish, episode 1 all the way until like episode 32 or whatever they stopped on. And it's great. I love that.
what they're doing because most of the time they're not getting paid to do it. They're doing it in their free.
Regular people aren't watching these big time podcasts. These are the ones that like get played in places, you know? Regular people watch regular independent podcasts.
Time it's something they do
if they even watch
as
podcasts.
a side hustle, and that's something that I like even more than an Andrew Huberman or a Joe Rogan, where that is their business. But I don't feel like that's the heart of podcasts, because everybody you talk to probably has 5 podcasts that they listen to that you're like, oh wow, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
Right? Like the actual power for a list like this is in the ones that nobody's heard of, just not the ones that nobody's heard of because they're presented by Walmart.
Yeah, there's another one that is presented by JP Morgan.
Like,
Oh, wow,
are
you
you
don't
kidding?
say.
There's one by Starbucks.
Like, okay, so Caleb Hammer, like, it would be hilarious to watch like an elderly boomer version of Caleb Hammer, where like some investment banker makes fun of you for not buying a house in 2008 before the crash.
Yeah, is Caleb Hammer not on here? Wouldn't that count as a podcast?
That would be great.
I mean, I bet like Dave Ramsey, in terms of popularity, his podcast is more
but I mean, like,
influential than anything
no,
else.
it's like
on
it's
there.
a JP Morgan, like it's like a JP Morgan executive. He's
Yeah.
like, oh, you were like 12 in 2008?
Yeah.
Skill issue.
Scroll down to the R to this podcast called The Rewatchables. Look who
That's in the pop culture section.
look who
yeah.
has sponsored that one.
Well, I can't see
Look
it
who's
here.
presenting that podcast.
How far down is it?
It's
The
in
Rewatchables
Rs.
presented by Holiday.
Yeah, like none of it seems like I would be interested in any of it, except for maybe Cocaine and Rhinestones, but Country Music Unplugged. Nope, never mind, I'm out.
Like, are we serious?
Why is
right
like
now?
at what
Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, I think that's the one.
point did so
Oh
this
my
is something
God.
Why would
that-
Holiday Inn need to
this
do
is
this?
something that I talk about all the time. All the food companies are meshing together and they're making like Taco Bell has a Cheez-It taco.
Oh, yeah.
Like that doesn't need to exist. What the hell does the Holiday Inn have to have a podcast for?
It's like, this podcast is so boring, it'll put you to sleep. You need somewhere to stay. Yeah.
Also, like when you go into a Walmart, like they have like their own radio station on.
And they
Yeah.
have a
Like,
ton here
that-
that are also sponsored by like different written outlets like The Cut or Slate, and multiple from the New York Times. And as you were saying, like why people like podcasting as a medium is because it feels more organic, even if it's not, you know, at least the appearance of it being organic conversation. And that's why Meghan Markle's podcast
Is so
both of them,
hated.
Archetypes and the new one, which is Confessions of a Female Founder,
Meghan Markle.
are
I
so
don't even know
hated
who that
because
is. I've heard the name. Is that like a news type person?
she scripts every word, and in some cases isn't even conducting her own interviews. They're doing pre-recorded answers to pre-recorded questions.
That she
That
didn't even
was
ask
not
them.
thankfully featured on this list, but another from the same studio, Lemonada, by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, is on the list.
Again,
Called Wiser Than Me.
she did Seinfeld and Veep, and she was born wealthy. Why is she side hustling on podcasts?
And the thing with like people like
Yeah,
this,
it's just like these people are bored, so they're gonna make a podcast because they want to make content. They want people to know them. They want to stay relevant, but they also don't really want to do much work on anything. So they just will sit around and have a conversation because people like to sit around and have conversations and do nothing.
is it's what they did
Might
is
as
they
well
sat
try and
down
get
and they're
paid
like,
for it.
I want a podcast, and then they have to retroactively come up with something like a topic
Right,
later
like
on.
I think Michelle Obama
somebody's like,
did that.
well, what are you into?
It's like nothing. I'm
And then
I'm a
Meghan
husk
Markle's
of a
like,
person.
crap, what am I into? I'm into yelling at my husband.
Yeah,
You're
I
like,
am-
well, that doesn't really sell unless it's comedy and you're not
basically
funny.
have no soul. I'm basically a husk of a human being, so this is going to be tricky. I don't know, maybe tech.
This is a good mention, the Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce one.
That's
New
a pretty
Heights.
relevant one.
That one belongs on this list. But for the most part, I've never heard of or seen these before.
Nope. None
Any
them.
of
Yeah,
them.
that's usually how it goes on these top 100 lists from magazines.
Like Walmart has its own radio station
who
that
the
at least
fuck are
gets
these
views
people?
because people have to listen to it while they're in the Walmart. But like my favorite podcast of all time, I've actually told this story before. It was called Podcast of Interest, and it was about the show Person of Interest. And I can't listen to it anymore because like the web server that it was hosted on is gone, and I actually messaged the guy who made the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, bro, can you like, I need it, man. Can you re-upload it?
Yeah.
Like I got like a 45-minute commute to work every day. I need all 500 episodes. I need all 100 episodes.
In the
I got a
entire-
road trip coming up. I need one more.
Yeah.
There are 3 examples in the news and politics topic, and it's New York Times, NPR, and New York Times. This is why you're a joke. Like, this is why everyone considers legacy media a joke and doesn't trust them.
Also, I don't see any wrestling podcasts in here, and wrestling was one of the first industries to like really like, because there's so many diehard fans of wrestling, they got in on the ground floor even before there was what is called podcasting. But like the podcasts that I listen to in wrestling have all been doing it for 10 years or more. Like at least 10 years or more. The ones who go all the way back.
I watched some guys that used to be a gaming channel on YouTube. They worked for Machinima. I think they're called Daniel and Larson. They did the top 10 for the win.
Back to the radio days, sometimes 15 to 20 years.
Here's another one. Code Switch, Unpacking Race in America by NPR.
Oh wow, that sounds
Who's
so
listening
sick.
to that?
Like, F-Time magazine for even putting this together. This
It was not Daniel Larson. That's not who I was trying to think of. It's somebody in Larson. Steve and Larson. There we go. These guys. Yeah.
is worse than the influencer list.
This had to be one person at time that just got the green light. And
Yeah.
there's no way. Her
Her name is Eliana Doctorman, and she put together this list.
Is criminal a true crime? No, it says the human side of crime.
That's
What?
in the true crime section.
At least true crime makes sense. There's a lot of people that love true crime.
They had one based on Elizabeth Holmes, The Dropout, which is in here.
Time will, plug their nose like when they made Trump like Man of the Year. And
Right,
Yeah.
right. So what changed?
what's going on?
Are they
Stuff.
still trying to pretend that they are relevant?
Yeah, they are.
They've got.
Oh, yeah. They thought that they were relevant. They started to slip a little bit. So they were like, we got to hold on to power, man. We got to start censoring everybody. We got to start shutting things down. We got to start putting more money into things like YouTube. So they start promoting things that we like. And we all got to get on board with each other, right? We got to censor them because we're dying. If we don't do something now, we're going to be known as the legacy media instead of the mainstream media. And we can't have that. And look where we are now. They're desperately clinging on to life.
Yeah, also, like, I heard of Bodega Boys, but
Yeah.
Conan O'Brien's podcast is on here.
I'm reading her like how she selected it, and she's like, you didn't have to be an A-lister with a professional studio to find overnight fame, but every 80% of the podcasts she picked are like
NPR.
produced by a major company.
Yeah, and then there's Bowen Yang's podcast, the irrelevant SNL actor. It's called Las Culturistas with Matt Rogers and Bowen Yang.
I just can't. If your studio isn't in like a basement somewhere with dust all over everything, then it's not real.
Well, like, there are some podcasts that like have a major backing that I enjoy. I'm still capable of enjoying. Like, for instance, Megyn Kelly was with SiriusXM for a long time. She now is independent, and I think ever since she went independent, she's been having more success, and she's also launching new people.
Who
like
watches
Lauren.
Megyn Kelly,
Friend
though?
of the show.
Friend of the show. Yeah. Do you think that for somebody like, but Megyn Kelly was one of those people that was always going to probably strike out on her own. Like she was never going to.
She was weird though because she was an A-lister that no one knew anything about. She was just a personality.
Maybe you'd heard the name, you knew it was spelled funny, but
you knew her, you knew her face, you knew like her cadence, but you don't know anything about her personally.
Yeah.
And those are actually somewhat rare, I think, of celebrities where they're literally just
I know Tim would crash out if he read through this list.
I think we did. I think we talked. We might not have talked about it on IRL, but we at least talked about it before IRL. At
What did
some
he
point.
say?
I don't know if he was. It might have been Sean or somebody else that was talking about it.
In objective metrics, Timcast IRL would be on this list.
yeah. If it was 100 most
what's the-
popular of all
What's
time.
the dude? Sean. Where are all the military industrial complex podcasts?
Sean Ryan.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
Yeah, it's not a real list. Yeah, none of the actual people that should be on there are going to be on there. That's how it always goes with these lists. That's how it always goes.
This is,
Doesn't Jocko Willink have his own podcast
Or
as well?
freaking Lex Friedman, where he's like on there doing math problems.
yeah. Why isn't
so
boring Lex Friedman
So
on here?
Brett, you do math sometimes.
Like I am pretty sure that like nobody actually awake listens to Lex Friedman.
I think Holiday Inn would be much better off sponsored.
I don't think anybody awake is reading this article. I think people will be like, I'm gonna click on it, look through it, and then they make some ad revenue on people's eyeballs seeing the ads on the over there on the sides, and then they click off, and then that's it. And then they're just banking on a bunch of people, thousands of people doing that, and they do.
Him.
Yeah.
Like you're in the car, you're about to fall asleep, listening to his dumb show, and then you're like, oh, Holiday Inn, okay.
Like I can't with this. Like all they had to do to like, if they were trying to rebuild credibility post vibe shift, would be to put like a couple of non-fake ones on here.
Brittany Hugaboom tweeted about this, saying the left has long dominated film, television, and fashion, but when it comes to podcasts, especially among men, the right owns that space.
Yeah, when it comes to a space where you're trying to be as real as possible, of course the left's not going to make it.
Rogan, Theo Von, and other male podcasters have become so influential culturally that even the left is asking, where is our version of Joe Rogan? And
well, you can't have one. Joe Rogan was your version of Joe Rogan. He was a leftist. He was a Democrat. Where have you gone? Come back.
The only podcasts recognized on the list were Call Her Daddy and Serial. The more mainstream media erases what's actually shaping culture, the faster the next generation will tune out. There are far more influential podcasts out there than the ones Time included.
Even like years ago, as far back as like 2020 that I can remember, people who were very far left would talk about Joe Rogan as like a slur. They're like, oh, you listen to that guy. And I was like,
I think that goes for pretty much anybody that anybody listens to. There's always going to be someone to be like, oh, you listen to that guy, really? Oh, you listen to Asmongold? Oh, you listen to Destiny? There's always somebody that's going to have that opinion.
Like,
yeah, like
pre-COVID
like
era?
I mean, I just might have had friends that were so far left that, you know, maybe that was unique at the time, but it's definitely not unique now.
Right.
And most of the stuff, and to be fair, I don't really listen to Rogan anymore, but the ones I always listened to were things that I had no interest in listening to outside of that time. Like, I didn't go search out Annie Jacobs' other books other than the one I heard about on that podcast, and I would listen to her episodes, or like any of the ones with dudes from the CIA, but it's not like I'm going out and seeking out that content.
Well, like 2020, they describe Rogan in the media as like this far right, you know, like Hitler podcast or whatever. And then you would listen,
which is so crazy because Joe Rogan's a leftist, and if they're painting him as far right, just that really shows you how far left they've gone.
and it would just be like, what if you had to like hop on the white lines on the crosswalk to get across the street? Like, whoa, dude. Wow.
Everybody's, it's just a whole bunch of
that's interesting.
podcast bros trying to work out the trolley problem.
Yeah, literally.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes.
Yeah, man, so weird. I hate all these Hollywood legacy types. I say Hollywood. I really need to come up with a new name, which probably legacy would be a good term for them. These legacy media, because, you know, it's dying out. Pretty soon it's going to be the historical media. We're not going to even be using them. We're just going to look back and be like, yep, that was a time in history where people were trying to hold on for dear life because their industry was failing. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for all notifications.